Being an old man, I like to mix on faders, and I know seeing Behringer used to be a sign of not very good quality, but they make great stuff now. This XTouch has motorized faders, it remembers where everything is, it jumps to the tracks you're on, and it allows you to automate just like in the old days. It's a lifesaver, couldn't be without it. So I got a Console 1 that sits next to the XTouch, and I don't actually use the SSL emulation that comes with it. I use it as a MIDI controller for my plugins, so when I add an effect or an EQ onto a channel, I can change the knobs around and control the effects direct. So I can mix the volume on here and then set the levels, and then I can go straight back in and modify things just like in the old days. It's so much quicker and intuitive to me. So I use an actual cab. This was Rizzler's, hence why it says eat shit on there. And this is an old DSL 50 that I've been using since early 2000s for Little London. I love it, I just know it inside out. It's a big knob! So the different guitars I used start with the Schecter, which I picked up for like £120 from a local guitar store. It's still got the original Seymour Duncan custom pickups in it. This thing's insane. It's one of the best guitars I've ever played. I tune it down to C standard, and then I drop the low E string down to A sharp, so it does all the big heavy stuff. When I was in Little London, I was quite well known for my part as playing a Black Beauty Les Paul, and that was lost to me after I went on tour in London. When I came home, it was gone, along with a lot of other stuff. So Brian Clark, who enjoys what I do, got in touch and lovingly sent me a shell which I rebuilt with 3 Seymour Duncan pickups in it, and we're back in business. So thank you, Brian, you legend. This is my electric kit I practice on, beat half to death. This is the Epiphone Genesis that I bought from a furniture store that was just in the corner. I put a bare knuckle pickup in the bridge and a Seymour Duncan in the neck. It's a double cutaway, and it's such an odd guitar. Like, the headstock's enormous, and I stuck a D on it for like no reason. I'm not sure why. I do things like that. But this does the majority of the drop C, and I blame Danny McCormack and Pete Vukovic exclusively for why I own this thing. I'm not even a fan of it. I did all the bass on here because it looks cool. Is it the best sounding bass around? Hell no. The bitch. This thing is great. When I came home from South Africa, this was the first thing I bought. It's got EMGs in it, which is a bit odd. I'm not a fan normally, but they're growing on me. It's an LTD. I've got a bit of foam that stops the strings from ringing. This thing's fast. It makes me sound better than I am probably, but it's such a good guitar, and it's just a joy to play. So for outboard, I've got my DBX compressor that's over the master mix. I've got this tape machine, which I use for various effects and distorting vocals and things like that. It comes in handy. There's a lexicon unit for all my reverbs. I don't tend to use VST, so I find that quite nice. And the most important thing in my studio is the Pink Flamingo. I've been a fairly vocal advocate for Reaper for a long time, but when we were tracking the drums for this album, we went to a local studio and laid it all down to tape. And I just felt like trying something new, and so I got the Harrison mix bus on board, 32C edition, and it's a great. It's like mixing on the old consoles, because every channel has its own character and sound, and it's very difficult to explain, but it makes a big difference to the character of your record, and you sort of learn how everything responds. And I've got all my channels here that I recorded, so I loaded them straight in. So I've got drums, vocals, guitars, what have you. And then I've got all my individual channels here, when you can see the faders are at 0, so I don't do much, and then I mix them in to the right hand side here, which is the auxes, and this is where the magic happens. So you can see I've got drums, bass, main guitars, vocals, extras, delay aux, room aux, and drum bus compression, and everything happens within those 12 auxes. That's where everything gets glued together, and then I do it on the master chain and get it finished up. And this shit's expensive, so if they want to endorse me, do it, Harrison, do it.